Okay, we're live. It's Wednesday, 3 August, year of our Lord 2022. We're live at CPAC. It's load-in day. Here we are on Lindell TV, Frank's Speech and all, John Fredericks Radio Network, G News, all of it. And we're here. We've had to reverse the shot because they were getting a little too crazy. The Trump Tribe of Texas, Mike Manuel, founder. Manuel, it's the greatest idea in the world. I'm going to do this. A bunch of hot gals, right? Run around Trump, amazing. Mike Manuel, that's an entrepreneur right there. The Trump Tribe, you go to Trump Tribe of Texas. What is it right now? Chairman, the match shop. Facebook, Mike Manuel, go there. Check it out. Google Trump Tribe of Texas. They're going to be here. It's load-in day it's load-in day at CPAC. Really want to thank CPAC for doing this because we're supposed to be up during the normal day, and we came out last night because we had to do the coverage for what's happening in Arizona. Little did we know, we still be counting on a primary ballots. We still be counting on the evening afterwards. Maricopa County has just said, and I'm not making this up, that the next drop, only 80% of the votes have been counted. 80% of the votes in a primary. I think there's 2.5, 3, 4 million voters in Arizona total. In France, there's 32 million. In France, by the way, right? Guys who take the entire month of August off, right, for vacation. So I love the French. I used to be partner. SocGen bought my investment bank at one time. I lived in Paris. I love the French, but they're not the hardest working folks I ever met. Okay, they know how to live, right? They know how to live. And here they finished counting by hand at 8 o'clock at night. 32 million votes for a whole nation. They declare a winner and they never argue about it. Here in Maricopa County, only 80% of the votes are counted. What is the walk-in, this new thing, you got to walk-in mail-in ballot. You got a mail-in ballot, just walk it in that day, and we got 5 days to adjudicate. This is nothing more than the Republican establishment knows they got crushed by Donald J. Trump and the Trump machine, okay, with no money, with grassroots. The turnout and the voting on game day was 70-30. You know, in American politics today, 52-48 is a landslide. Okay, the country's so evenly divided, and/or the Democrats cheat so well, right, that you have very small margins. Chris Kobach won by 4 points. I said, brother, you had a landslide. 70-30, the spread on game day votes. Kari Lake was down at midnight last night, Eastern Daylight Time. Kari Lake was down by 10 points. The Robeson campaign was making all kind of noises for her to concede. And what'd she say? Let's take a deep breath and count all the legitimate votes. And so today she's up by 1.8%. Of course, you haven't had any vote drops in 6, 8, 9 hours, and they just told us they're going to drop at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. That's just the next drop. They're not guaranteeing that that's all there is. What they're trying to do, the Republican establishment, the McCain, Ducey, Mike Pence, anti-Trump, never Trump apparatus, is trying to do something very simple. They're trying to work with MSNBC and the New York Times and take this searing victory away from Kari. Kari Lake would get up there and give that amazing speech, right? Just like Tudor Dixon gave last night. Tudor Dixon gave a textbook victory speech in Michigan. They did not want that to happen again. The establishment knows they've been defeated. They've been defeated by working class people that went out and voted 70-30 on game day, which are really the legitimate votes, okay? Blew them out, and now they're going to slow walk this. They're going to make this as hard as possible for Kari Lake to win because they fear Kari Lake and MAGA more than they fear progressive Democrats, right? They are the controlled opposition. And Katie Hobbs is at 7 o'clock in the morning on MSNBC saying this and saying that these people are extreme, everything like that. Do your job. How can you're the Secretary of State of Arizona. And I don't want to hear, it's at the counties. You should drive down to Maricopa County, the Secretary of State, and say, what's going on? You're supposed to represent everybody. You're not just supposed to represent Democrats, okay? You're supposed to represent everybody. Okay, at CPAC this week, we're trying to have as many guests in studio as possible. That's the reason we came here. Really want to thank Matt Schlapp and the guys Matt was on at the last hour. I really want to thank everybody. This is load-in day, so you're going to have a lot of activity, a lot of working people around here putting stuff up. They've got to get stuff done or they'll be here until dark 30 in the morning. I want to thank Ivan Garcia-Hidalgo. Ivan, you've been with us many times. You launch tomorrow this new Hispanic language network, English language for Hispanic. Last time we had you on, Soros was down there buying up. Because look, I know we all can't stand Soros. We disagree with his ideology. He's a radical, but he's a smart guy and he's a tough guy, and he puts his money where his mouth is. How come we don't have billionaires in the Republican Party that don't put their money to back MAGA, to back Donald Trump, to back the working class people in this country? All they've got is money on the politics of personal destruction. Destroy Eric Greitens, not a problem. Destroy Kerry Lake, not a problem. Destroy Chris Kobach, not a problem. Destroy Joe Kent, not a problem. They can't beat us on policy, so the billionaires in the Republican Party put their money in back of the politics of personal destruction. $30 million against Kerry Lake in Arizona. $30 million of ads the Democrats are going to run over and over and over again. They don't care about winning. What they care about is the managed decline of this country, where they have a part of it. There's a great theory out there called the Thucydides trap. This is this theory that we're the declining power, China's the rising power. It's based upon the Peloponnesian War, and this guy Graham Allison from Harvard and Henry Kissinger have this theory that 12, 15 times throughout world history, you've had a declining power and a rising power, and it's all led to a catastrophic war, except the few times the enlightened declining power was able to kind of nudge the rising power to their values, and that's what the United States should do. As they decline, we should ask the CCP very nicely to kind of take our values. Dr. Allison came over one time to the Breitbart Embassy where the War Room is filmed. I asked Dr. Allison, I said, I read your book, went through your theory. Here's your problem, brother. Show me one time where the elites of the declining power made more money on the way down than they made on the way up. Because that's what's happened here. And that's why you have a Republican establishment that has all the benefits of the MAGA votes, all the benefits of the MAGA sons and daughters that are put out in these endless wars, all the benefits of MAGA's taxes and their pension funds, but MAGA gets none of the benefits. Ivan, I'm so glad Soros is down there buying radio stations because he knows big AM radio stations in Florida, because he understands AM radio media is the way to get the Hispanic vote. There's a tectonic plate shift. I think 55% of Hispanic votes could come our way this November. Tell us what you're doing. I know you're launching TV. We want to hear the whole story.
Absolutely, Steve. It's always a pleasure to be here. It's, like you said, George Soros went out there and bought 18 stations. One of them was Radio Mom B, a classic, Cuban exile radio station in Miami. With the
legendary.
Yeah,
that thing's been around forever.
Right,
Every big personality in the Cuban community's come through there.
All of them.
It's the reason that South Florida has been such a rock for Republican candidates, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. And, with the sole intention to shut it down, cancel it, kill it, and eliminate all Hispanic conservative voices. So at Americana, we said, no way to Soros. Come on over, and we took all the top talent. We eliminated 6 hours of their premium.
You took a host for 6 hours of programming.
We took 6 hours of their programming, and we're still not done. But what we're doing right now is, as you know, we launched on Sirius XM, becoming the first ever nationwide conservative network in Spanish language, right, back in March, and now we're doing it on TV. We're actually going to be transmitting here 6 hours a day live.
Hold on. You're launching on TV at CPAC.
Yep.
And
yes,
how
sir.
can people pick it?
Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire,
Wow.
Google TV.
Wow.
You can download our apps on iOS and Android. We're also on every single major podcast platform. And something that we're going to do to help the American people, since Joe Biden's disastrous policies are spiking up the cost of gas, we're going to give free gas for a year to one person. All you have to do is download our app, register, and you qualify to win gas for a year. So that's what we're going to give back. We're trying to give back to the American people. Hopefully Joe Biden will do something, but I think he doesn't know who he is half the time or where he is the other half, right? But hey, who am I to come up with that psychiatric outcome, right? So, but I'm pretty sure there's some psychiatrists out there that'll agree.
Let me ask you, why are we seeing now, when the Republicans have told us forever, you got to be for DACA, you got to be for open borders, you got to be for this, when you have MAGA, which is for law and order, it's for the family as a nuclear unit, it's for none of this craziness about gender ideology, it's not about CRT, it's about locking down the border so that the low income people, right, and low skilled people are not flooded with labor that drives labor, that drives down, that you have all these deals with these visas that allows the whole world to come to Silicon Valley, and African American and Hispanic people can't get jobs there. Well, why is it the Republican Party has gone for years and tried to get it and really gotten no traction, but Donald Trump comes along right, as a tough guy, as a guy's going to stand up for the country, and all of a sudden you got MAGA, you got working class whites and others, and now you're seeing 55%. What did the mainstream media get wrong, and what did the Republican Party get wrong that the Hispanic community wanted to hear?
Well, it's you nailed it, right? It's MAGA policies. It's the absolute success of Donald Trump. You know, we had the strongest economy in over 50 years, the lowest unemployment for Hispanics in the history of this country.
The history.
In the history.
Lowest
of this country.
unemployment.
The history. You know, the first time in over a decade that income went up, and it benefited Hispanics the most. You know, that's reality. Donald Trump was a president for Hispanics, and Hispanics recognize that. Hispanics understand that. And like you said, law and order.
You know why he was a president for Hispanics? Because he's a president that put America first.
That's right.
They understand that. African Americans understand it. Royce White's going to be my co-host in a minute. All you got to do is deal straight with people. Make sure you're going to pay. Make sure you're going to support American citizens, and people are going to flock to you. Right?
That's right.
You don't have to kowtow to special interests.
No.
What you need to do is stop the vested interest.
And if you look at every poll, Steve, Hispanics are against illegal immigration. Hispanics understand the problem at the border. Democrats call you a racist, say all kinds of stupid stuff, right? But the reality is we know what happens at the border. There's drug trafficking, there's human trafficking, there's organ trafficking, there's drugs, there's weapons. There is all kinds of problems, you know, at the border. Women, young girls have to take birth control before they start that trek to the border because they're going to get raped multiple times a day. You know, something that's not talked about is organ harvesting.
Yes.
How many people disappear in the deserts? You know, cut up to pieces, organs disappeared and killed and slaughtered for their organs. This is a horrible thing.
You believe that? A lot of people say
No, I
that's
know that for a
conspiracy.
fact.
Okay, a lot
I
of
know
people,
that for a fact
a lot of
because
people,
I've talked to
a lot of
so
people
many
say
law
that's
enforcement
conspiracy theory. Why do you think it's a fact?
Because I have talked to so many law enforcement experts across the border, federal, you name the agency, I've spoken to them, and they know that for a fact. They absolutely, the U.S. government knows that. It is not something that's made up. The cartels run this thing. The coyotes run this thing. If you don't have the money to pay your debt, you got to go work for the cartel. Go pack bags, carry bags, do security, do whatever. If you're a woman, then you got to go work, you know, as a prostitute.
Really?
You know, until you pay it off. Once you pay it off, then you're let go.
Thousands of dollars.
Look, you talk
Human trafficking is a bigger business than drug trafficking.
It's huge. You talk to people that are across the border in Arizona, California, and they talk about the safe houses. You know, I got to get Robert Arce, who's our contributor. Yeah. He worked on the border. He talks about safe houses that he went into in Phoenix, and there were 100 people. 100 people with no shoes. They were locked down, tied down, waiting for their family members to wire money, Western Union, to be released.
Yep.
In another room with a padlock, all the pretty girls and women that were being used for something else. It is a horrendous thing. This administration, the Democrat policies are horrendous and inhumane, and they just don't get it. They think it is pandering to Hispanics. Hispanics don't care. Hispanics don't want illegal immigration. We understand that bringing in, look, you cannot have the poorest of poor people, and those are the ones that are really trekking across, right, from Central America and Mexico. They have very little education, if any. They can probably not read or write their own language.
In their own language.
You know, and you're going to bring them into the #1 economy in the world? That's inhumane. How are you going to make them compete?
Well, that's how
are they going to compete?
That's how they flood the zone, you know? with low skilled labor, and this is what kills Hispanics. How do people get to you? What's your social media handle, and how do they find out this initial broadcast?
AmericanoMedia.com, AmericanoMedia.com, iOS or Android. Download the app, register for free gas for a year. You can win it. Do it. Tell your friends. Also, Apple TV, Google TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire. Find us there and on every major podcast platform. You name it. iHeart, Apple, Google, Spotify. We're all there.
Free gas for a year. How big a deal is inflation to the Hispanic community? How big an issue?
Look, it's huge. I mean, look, Hispanics have to drive an average of over an hour to get to work every day. You know, so it kills them every day. I talk to so many working class Hispanics, and they say, gas is killing me. When I go to the grocery store, I can't buy the same things I bought a year ago. We can't even fill it halfway to what we bought a year and a half ago. They understand something that's very clear. MAGA policies, Donald Trump policies, put America first and put Hispanics first. You know, and it grew Hispanics like never before. And they know one thing also, Steve, is that Democrats and these policies are destructive. They're the worst that can happen. So many Hispanics lost their country and had to flee because of these Marxist policies. And we know it guarantees only 5 things, right? Misery, chaos, corruption, destruction, and ultimately death. So who wants that? Democrats do, Hispanics don't. Steve,
good luck.
A pleasure.
We love having you guys on. I love the work you're doing. The Hispanic vote is absolutely, the tectonic plate shift is going to lead us to 50, 60, 70 seats this year.
We're going to get over 56%. Watch.
Brother, if we do that, it'll be like 1932. The Democratic Party, we have a chance to destroy the Democratic Party.
And we have to.
Brother, good luck. Love having you guys on. Let's go. We're going to go to the great state of Washington. We've got Loren Culp. Is Loren Culp up? Loren, tell us, I want an update from Loren. How can the most advanced, one of the most advanced states with Microsoft, Amazon, Seattle, how can they only have 50, I think it's 53% of the vote counted, Loren Culp?
Yeah, it makes you wonder, doesn't it, Steve? You know, in the 2020 governor's race, they had the results 5 minutes after the polls closed, and they can't come up with numbers even a tenth of the amount of votes in this election right now. But we don't have an update on the numbers. They're saying that it'll be between 4 and 5 o'clock Pacific time. So we're in a holding pattern right now. But I will add that Republicans aren't going to save this nation by playing politics, by playing party politics. Dividing the vote like they did in my election and Joe Kent's election is why the both of us aren't in the number one spot right now. And it's a strategy to keep the swamp creatures in the swamp. I mean, and most Republicans are fine playing right along with that. You know, I raised some eyebrows recently when I said that I don't give a rat's ass about a party as much as I do the American people. Some people in the mainstream Republican Party lost their freaking minds because I care more about the American people than I do a party. But we can't play party politics. We have got to stand strong, and we're going to hopefully push this over here. I don't know about this vote count. I don't know how many votes they're going to actually put out, the count. We might be sitting here waiting until Friday, for all I know.
Loren, let me ask you, because this is what the audience wants to know. People are telling me that it's the rural vote in Washington 3 and Washington 4 that is the strongest game day vote for you and Joe Kent. Those are exactly the ballots that haven't been counted yet. Do you have any feel for where these ballots are going to come from?
We do not know where those ballots are going to come from. I know that a lot of my supporters don't trust the mail-in voting, which we've had for at least 3 decades here in Washington State. They don't trust it, so they were holding their ballots to drop them off and not mail them, but drop them off on election day. So I don't know. I mean, they collect those. Supposedly, they close the ballot box and collect the ballots at 8 o'clock that night. They stopped counting the vote at 8:45 or 9 o'clock. So whether they got to those ballots to be counted in the first batch, I don't know.
Okay, Culp, when are you going to, one more time, the next drop by the Secretary of State there is going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern time?
Yes, 7 to 8 p.m. is what we're being told. Eastern time. 7
to 8 p.m. your time or Eastern time?
Eastern time.
Okay. It's unacceptable. I mean,
isn't
state of Washington, the great state of Washington, the Huskies, we've got all these great folks up there, great patriots. Correct me if I'm wrong, is not that the headquarters of Amazon? Is not the headquarters of Microsoft? Is not the headquarters outside of Silicon Valley? Maybe Austin, Texas, maybe Route 128 in Boston and Cambridge, right? Are the only other 2 tech centers like this in the world? You got Nancy Pelosi over there to Taiwan because of the chips, but Seattle, Washington, how can a state that's a leader in the post-industrial world economy have 53% of their votes, only 53% counted at in the afternoon of the day after? How does that happen, Brother Culp? Tell me how that happens.
Yeah, why does that happen? You know, and it leads to voter mistrust. It leads to people thinking that they're doing something nefarious. And we need people to trust our election system. So why do they delay the vote like this? Steve, I have no clue. I mean, they're using machines.
Brother Culp, the only way people are going to trust this system if the people take it over. Our betters in the elites have shown us the fiasco of 2020 when they stole it from Trump. They've had 2 years to get everything right. In Maricopa County, at 10 o'clock tonight Eastern time, they're going to have the next drop, right? They're not saying the final, the next drop. Our betters have spoken, and in Washington, this is all we need to know. You got Phoenix, and you got up there in the state of Washington. If they can't get it together, the elites have shown us what they're going to do because they don't care. You know what they're doing? They're working this thing out to get the vote they want to have. They do not want to give up power. The last thing they want to see, right, is Joe Kent and Loren Culp in Congress. This is exactly what's happening. Is there any doubt in your mind of that, sir?
Yeah, they don't want Joe Kent and Loren Culp in Congress. No, because we will not go along to get along. We're going to Washington, D.C. to fight the swamp, to stand up for the American people, and take this country back from the radical left and the rhinos that are in Congress and in the presidency.
Okay.
They don't want that at all. They want to keep things as usual because they want the money flow to keep going. They want the money laundering scheme that they've got going to continue. And they know that Joe Kent and I aren't going to play that game. Brother
Culp, really quickly, what's your social media? People want to find out and follow this 24/7. How do people get to you to get latest second updates on the race in Washington 4?
Yeah, we'll be posting the results as soon as we get them. My handle on most social media is Loren, at Loren Culp, and my website is culp4congress.com.
Brother Culp, Loren Culp, fight on, brother. We'll check back in throughout the night and see you on here tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Steve.
I've got the one and only Royce Whites here riding shotgun with me. Right before I bring Royce in here, I got to get to Brian Kennedy. Brian, you went out to Arizona immediately for President Trump, I think on the 4th or 5th of November 2020. Is it an absolute disgrace what's going on in Maricopa County? And what would you recommend Kelly Ward do right now, sir?
Thanks, Steve. I would suggest Kelly Ward get serious and quit with the happy talk. The fact is they stole it from Trump in 2020 in Arizona because they had constructed a system to basically obfuscate the ability of anybody to watch what goes on. And we haven't fixed that over the last 2 years, and shame on us.
Disgrace.
And Stephen Richer, who's the registrar there in Maricopa County, he has said time and again that the election in 2020 was not stolen. He's supposed to be a Republican. He acts like a Democrat. He took to the pages of National Review last year to say absolutely the election was not stolen. And so now this is not incompetence on his part. This is their system of voting. And they make it confusing this way, and they make it look complicated so that they can manipulate the vote if they have to get the desired results. This is done on purpose. They don't want people like Carrie Lake to win, or Mark Fincham, or Blake Masters. But yesterday you saw so many people coming out and voting for those folks that they won. But the mere fact that we don't have lawyers on the ground making sure that these votes are being counted and published is simply ridiculous. And everybody watching in the war room should be upset about this.
No, they are. They're outraged. By the way, you told me last night, we didn't know this, the great Vin Scully passed away, Brooklyn Dodgers, LA Dodgers, the voice of baseball. I didn't realize he's a major contributor to Claremont Institute, which you ran. Can we play, we got a short clip on Vin Scully. Let's play Vin Scully. I want to have Brian Kennedy, who knew him, comment.
We take a moment to pause and note the passing of the greatest baseball broadcaster of all time. Vin Scully passed away last night at the age of 94. It's not often that you can say of anybody in any profession with absolute certainty that he was the greatest of all time and will always be considered that. But after 67 years of broadcasting Dodger games and all the other joy that he brought into our household and the wonderful warmth of the man himself, there is no question that Vin Scully set a standard that nobody will ever equal. When Vince
I want to go to Brian Kennedy. Brian, Vin Scully was obviously a legend, a good man, went to Fordham. I think went to Fordham Prep too, with the Brooklyn Dodgers. He did that great broadcast. I think it was 1955 when the Brooklyn Dodgers finally broke that streak and beat the New York Yankees. Then he went to L.A. as a guy who lived in Southern California for years. Baseball was Vin Scully, and Vin Scully was baseball. Walk us through. Tell us about his involvement with Claremont.
He was a donor, Steve, and just out of respect to his family, I don't want to overstate it just because the media is so divisive these days. But he was a supporter of Claremont. He was a patriot. He was a gentleman. He was a Roman Catholic. I very often listen to the Rosary, which is recited by Vin Scully, of all people.
Wow.
And he was a devout Catholic. but just a good man. And he's a reminder for all of us who are engaged in politics. We do all this politics not for the sake of politics, but for the sake of liberty and freedom. And Vince Scully, and the way he announced baseball, he was such a gentleman. He reminds us about what's good about America.
Amen.
And that we do these hard things like politics, so that we can enjoy things like baseball and our family and our freedoms.
Amen.
And that's an important reminder as we're here in the trenches.
Brian Kennedy, how do people track you on social media, sir?
On Getter, it's Brian T. Kennedy. Thank you, Steve, for all you do.
Thank you, brother, for doing this. So, the chairman of the Committee on the Present Danger of China. Okay, very special. We're going to take a short commercial break. When we return, one of the great warriors in our nation, one of the great populists and nationalists, Royce White, is in the house. When we return with War Room Battleground. Be back in a moment.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, we're live. We're at CPAC load-in day. Hello. Can't producer myself. Okay, thanks, guys. By the way, we're here at War Room Battleground, Wednesday, 3 August. I'm honored to have a friend, a buddy, a comrade, a colleague, a compatriot, the great Royce White. Royce, look, I've come to admire you. Jeff Quatnitz, my old partner, is one of the founders of the Big Three League.
Yep.
You guys have a great thing going. You've camped in Dallas for the summer. I think you're going to Chicago. The league's going great. You've become a global figure, not just as a populist nationalist running for Congress now in a competitive primary to try to run against Omar, but you've kind of made Big Three basketball as a TV event for more than just basketball fans.
Yeah.
Because when Royce White goes out, he's the one guy who talks about the Uyghurs. He takes on the Chinese Communist Party. He's fighting injustice throughout the world, right? Talking on the Federal Reserve. Brought your favorite book here, Lords of Easy Money.
Lords of Easy Money.
Lords of Easy Money.
Yeah.
Royce White's taking on the Fed. He's defending the little guy throughout the world. Now, I was in the news here recently with a certain event in Washington, D.C. My lawyer let me say a certain event in Washington, D.C. And my brother Royce says, man, you got to watch my walkout. Now, when Royce does the walkouts at Big Three, they're like a global event. He's got the Uyghurs, ban the Fed, and the Uyghurs, take down the CCP. So I watch it, and people say that you're going to walk out with a shout-out, free Bannon, right, shaved on your, marked up on your head.
Yeah.
I watch Big Three every week. The biggest highlight they got is Royce White's walkout. It's the one time the cameras cut away. I saw no Royce White. I saw you out there as like an ant on the court, but no close-up. Is that there's no conspiracies, but there's no coincidence. What happened? Can you say were the overlords at CBS get angry at Quatnitz and Sean Bannon and Cube and the other owners of Big Three and cut your contract? I don't want to, as far be it from me. I don't want to get you guys in trouble.
No, I think that the Uyghurs, there are certain topics that are in the purview for even a CBS to allow me to speak on. Steve Bannon is innocent was way outside the purview. And, and so I try to strategically, place the phrase on this side of my head because we play half court, so I spend a lot of time with the left side of my head showing whether we're on defense or off. So I try to be strategic in placing on the left side so they wouldn't be able to avoid it, and they did show it, but they never spoke on it. Now that could be the commentators.
It wasn't digitally marked out.
The commentators may not understand what's going on.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand everything that's going on in the world today. So
no, that's what I want to ask you before I move to politics and to your race and to the Fed and things you're interested in. Maricopa County, you've got the vested. Look, you're a recent member to the Republican Party. You're running for the Republican nomination to take on Omar. Yeah. You've seen all the games that are played, right? In that convention in Minneapolis, right? In Minnesota, they had a bunch of Doug Wardle, a bunch of guys got the okey doke, right, by the establishment. In Maricopa County, the banking, corporate, and real estate interest got a full facial by MAGA, and yet they won't turn. The next ballot drop is 10 o'clock. As someone new to the Republican Party that's trying to build a new Republican Party that's inclusive nationalism and participatory populism, how's that set with you, sir?
Well, I think we got to get every never Trumper out of the party. And that purge needs to start with this election cycle.
Do you think we need to purge the never Trumpers out?
Every last one of them. There's only what we're going to decide here in the next 2 years, 4 years is very simple. Do we want to have a country or don't we? And those are the only two groups of people. Take the Democrat and Republicans and throw it out the window. Do you believe in having a country called America that has America's foundational values, or don't you? It just so happens that the Republican side of things is the only party that has a remote sense of us having a country. But even within, there are a bunch of Republicans, insiders, establishment that don't believe we should have a country at their heart.
Hang on, I'm lectured every night because at the War Room in our headquarters in D.C., we have CNN and MSNBC on nonstop. We have teams monitoring polling. We're lectured every night, particularly MSNBC by Joy Ann Reid and Chris Hayes and Rachel Maddow and the whole crowd over there, that not just the Republican Party, but the Trump movement and the Trump MAGA movement of the Republican Party is nothing but a bunch of cracker, xenophobic white nationalists, and that only the Democratic Party is the natural home for all African Americans. You don't agree with that? Is Chris Hayes wrong when he's lecturing us? Is our beloved Joy Ann Reid with all her different wigs and hairdos, is she wrong every day when Joy Ann is and I love Joy Ann. We watch her every night. I love her show. She's lecturing us every day. We're a bunch of white nationalist crackers. Is she wrong, sir?
No, Joy Ann Reid is the quintessential sellout. She's a sellout to her own people first and foremost, be it the black community. She doesn't want to be black. She hates that she's black. She wants to be a liberal white woman, and she's very angry and aggressive towards the American movement because they won't allow her to be. But she's a sellout to the country, and they know that there is an establishment that doesn't want us to have a country. They want us to be a piggy bank to the party of Davos, and they want us to be a tributary state to the CCP, and they're completely okay with that. Because to them, sovereignty isn't an important issue. It's not an important quality, a trait for us to hold.
Okay. Minneapolis, where you're running for Congress, is the center of many issues we've had over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
The Mr. Floyd situation, other situations, police. You led, and the first time I saw you, I said, who's this guy? You led a march that time, and you didn't take it down to George Floyd Square. You went to the Federal Reserve Bank in Minneapolis. The issues you talk about, the issues you run on, is that resonating in that community today as you run for Congress? Because I look at other Congress people, they're talking about a whole different set of issues than Royce White is. Do you believe you're breaking through and people are starting to understand the issues you're talking about and why you think that what you want to focus on will take the nation in the right direction, and you're the type of leader that ought to be at the forefront of this, sir?
Well, I think our issues are upstream from politics. Our issues are cultural. Our issues are moral. They're spiritual. The political manifestation of our country today, as it stands in the circumstance here, is all downstream from the culture. And so I think much of what has happened today and why America is where it is because the mainstream media establishment has done well to keep these issues out of the scope of what Americans find important, whether it be the Fed, whether it be trade. President Trump and yourself brought trade back into the forefront, but yet and still, many people in the community I come from in Minnesota, which is this little tiny corporate Fortune 500 stronghold, they still believe that globalism is great, that China's the great new horizon, and we all can ride that wagon home to freedom. But there is no freedom in China. And that's the scary part is when I talk to people in the community, I just ask them fundamental questions about ideas like freedom. When the George Floyd thing happened, a lot of people in Minneapolis talked about freedom. They talked about rights. They talked about human dignity. And I just asked them, you get all your goods from a place where, God be it, you say you want LGBTQ rights, but they banned effeminate men from television. And God bless them for doing it. But they didn't do it because they believe in God. They did it because they see a war in the future with America, and they know that a weak population of men is not fit to fight a war against a formidable opponent. So that's what I just try to talk to them about the real things. And if I lose, I won't lose by becoming a Democrat, right? We can't win. If we become Democrats to win these elections, we don't really win.
Why all the consultants tell everybody that's running in these D plus, and by the way, I
Gotta
think
be
it's
a Democrat.
These are 20. You have to be a Democrat light to try to do it. The consultants tell you that. Why do you believe, first off, you can beat your opponent in the primary, and then why do you think you can take on Omar, who's one, let's be brutally frank, she's one of the rock stars of the Democratic Party. You would be taking on one of their biggest fundraisers, one of their biggest international media celebrities.
Yeah. Well, like I said many times before, we live in the age of the double cross and triple cross. The Star Tribune, which is the newspaper of record in Minneapolis, said that for me to say globalism was a dog whistle for anti-Semitism. But they most recently, through their support, the editorial board, through their support behind Don Samuels, who's running against Ilhan in the Democrat primary. I mean, these are dangerous, scary times. And what occurs to me is two things. One is the Republican establishment is the outer bastion of defense for New World Order. They're the first line of defense. The rhinos are the first line of defense for the New World Order. Make no mistake about it. They're protecting the Democrat establishment from real American candidates running against their stalwarts. And secondly is that even more dangerous than Ilhan Omar, and I dislike her. She's the worst. But don't be fooled, because the most dangerous people are the centrists. The most dangerous.
Why is that? I've never heard. That's great. Why is that?
The extremes are there to create a illusion of a caricature of opposition, a caricature of fear and a place that we don't want to go, and we're right to not want to go there. But the real danger are the purveyors of the corrupt status quo. The moderates, the center, the center that wants an ever-expanding center. These are the people that we have to weed out. This is Liz Cheney on one side, and let's say a Joe Biden type on the other, or what's my guy, Benny Thompson, another sine qua non sellout.
We see this in they just put $30 million on Kerry Lake's head. And you see this with Eric Greitens. They just destroyed him for $10 or $15 million. When people like you that come up that are complex and try to take on the system, like Kerry Lake, like Donald Trump, like Eric Greitens, like yourself, what they revert to is the politics of personal destruction. Here's how they do it. They're not going to take you on by issues. They're not going to debate Royce White about the Fed. They're not going to debate you about trade, because they understand you have the facts. And when people listen, you can make a rational case that. What they're going to do is what they do to Donald Trump and what they do to Eric Greitens and what they do to Joe Kent and what they do to Kerry Lake. It's the politics of personal destruction. Yeah. Okay? Because the arguments you actually have to, they're going to go after low information voters, right? With the mainstream media they've got, the legacy media, and those TV networks in Minneapolis and the Minneapolis Star, and absolutely to try to destroy you. They won't try to destroy Omar. Look, she will carry water for them. They don't like her, but she'll carry water for them. Yeah. You won't. How are you going to combat? And here's what the establishment come and say, hey, Royce White's a good man. He's a good man, but he can't win. Kerry Lake, okay, she can't win. Eric Greitens can't win. Donald Trump, remember in 14-15, Donald Trump can't win. Yeah. Okay, they can't win. Yep. They're going to say the same thing about you. How do you combat that? And how do you convince people with no money, because you're going to be like Lake and you're going to be like all of them. You know, it's a grassroots campaign. It all lives hand to mouth. How are you going to convince them that you actually can get this done?
It's not my job to convince them that we're going to get this done. I mean, the point is that at some point we have to take a stand and fight back with the truth. If we fight with lies, then we can't have a real victory. And so, you know, the people of my community are hopefully going to start to see the yield from the politics that they've been sold with their French fries, and they are starting to see that. I think people are real apprehensive towards Ilhan Omar's policies, Keith Ellison, the Democrat Party, and I'll say this for the black community because race is not the biggest issue, but it is a thing. And the black community has been targeted in the political propaganda area. That's why they vote 95% Democrat. We're making huge headway there in Minneapolis. Many black people in Minneapolis are no mas with the Democrat Party. And I talk to them about real issues, and many of them, they don't like the CRT. They don't want their kids to be taught that they're not, that the boys are girls and the girls are boys. All of those things are starting to be pushed too far to where now even communities that traditionally voted Democrat are going to turn in a different direction. So I think that's a great start. But again, it's cultural. It's cultural. And what we have to do, in my opinion, is find our Christian roots. Ministry is not just for the religious, it's also political. We have to go into the communities that they've roped off, given propaganda, and said, go loose, let chaos reign. I can go into those communities. The question is, will the outer state constituency accept my America First agenda? And we have great traction outstate. So, I'm in a tiny district where there's 13,000 primary Republican voters. They get to decide if they want to have a country or not. In our primary. My opponent raised $2 million. She doesn't have a nickel to rub together. Why? Because all the political operatives and the establishment robbed the campaign. It was just a grift. She was always the controlled opposition cut out to run against Omar. I came late in the game, and they tried to rally and make sure that I didn't get endorsed. And even though they were backing her, the establishment, the people still almost endorsed me with the 46 to 64 100 delegate vote. So, we're making headway, but we have to stay focused, keep our eye on the prize, and stay true.
Let me leave the primary for a second. When you go into the black community, particularly a place that's gone through so much of what Minneapolis has gone through the last couple of years, when you talk populism, when you talk Federal Reserve, when you talk trade and jobs and the kind of the MAGA America First agenda, do you get any intellectual pushback? Do you feel like you're getting traction with the community, that they understand where you're coming from and see how you're trying to lead people and lead this country to something totally different that you don't see in mainstream politics?
No, I don't get any intellectual pushback, really. I mean, mostly when I talk in, let's say, podcasts that are more local, more in the heart of the Minneapolis community, people are just surprised and appreciative to hear information that they've never heard before. And, I throw your name out there and I say, well, have you ever actually heard Steve Bannon talk? Or are you just going to believe that he's a white supremacist because CNN told you? And they kind of give me that deer in the headlights look. And, I'm 6'8", 270, so I'm not easy to push around either. And I just say, no, from a real standpoint, what do you think your citizenship means? What value? How do you value your citizenship? What is it? Is it job opportunity? Is it security? Is it the ability to be free, to have individual rights? What is it? And then when I start to break down the deterioration or the devaluing of or the decline of our American citizenship, they're open to it. I said, why were we ever okay with our manufacturing being sent to another country? Do you know how dangerous it is for essential medicines, essentials of all sorts to be manufactured in a place that has declared war on us? And they have declared an asymmetrical war on us economically and otherwise. And they go, well, what's going to happen when you need a Z-Pack? It's made in China. Now, what if China says no more Z-Pack? Do you think we should manufacture our medicines, essential antibiotics in China? No, we shouldn't. Well, what do you think? Well, where should we go? Who's going to bring them home? The Democrats aren't. Oh, well, that's not the only issue. Well, let's go to the next issue. And we just keep going down the line, and you have to be invested in actually explaining these things their proper way, not going for the petty token issues, low regulation, low taxes. That's been the Republican.
It's got us in the stream.
Right there in the heart of CD5 in Minneapolis, low regulation, low taxes. Guys, that's not what's killing America. It's not.
$30 trillion and $9 trillion on the Federal Reserve. You're not going to have more tax cuts. Any tax cuts are fancy.
That's right.
Before we go, when you start talking about the Federal Reserve and the politics of money, which this country in the 19th century, all the way from Jefferson and Hamilton through Jackson and Lincoln, all the way to William Jennings Bryan, until the Federal Reserve was started, the 19th century was about the politics of the control of money, who controlled the currency. When you talk to people in the community and in the district, does that start to get traction about the importance of that Federal Reserve Bank in Minneapolis and how much control it has over their lives?
Well, when I marched the 18,000 people to the Fed during the George Floyd issue, it was because the police aren't the issue for black people. That's just a complete scam. The issue is an institution like the Fed that none of them even know about. They drive past it every day, whether it's on the metro or they bike or walk or whatever it is, right there on Hennepin Avenue, the main street of downtown Minneapolis, and the Fed's sitting there right on the corner on the river, across the street from Father Hennepin, across the water from Father Hennepin Park and John Baptist de La Salle High School that I attended. Heresy. I mean, to have the Fed and John Baptist de La Salle on the same block, that's the ultimate scam. But most people don't even know what the building is. And I said, listen, the Fed, since 2009, let's just make it a shorter time horizon. They all said, look, we're going to give money, we're going to print money so that it can go to increase wages. We're going to increase the wages, we're going to bring jobs, and all of it went to the C-suite, it all went to the hedge funds, it all went to golden parachutes and bonuses, and the American people lost jobs in turn because Wall Street and D.C. had a quid pro quo to send the money that they inflated to China. I mean, it's just the ultimate scam. It's a Ponzi scheme.
You're going to co-host with me on Friday. You're going to come and get a big game on Saturday. What's your social media? How do they get to the campaign as we wrap up?
Royce White. I'm on Getter. I'm also on Substack, Truth Social as well. I'm everywhere.
The victory of Royce White in this primary and against Omar would be one for the ages. I got to tell you, Royce White.
Godspeed, brother. Thank you.
American Patriot. You're going to be back with me on Friday. Okay, we're going to be back 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. We're going to be live from CPAC. Hope to have everybody here, including, by the way, the amazing Trump Tribe of Texas and others. CPAC, wild enough here. Want to thank everybody for joining us on load-in day here at CPAC. Want to thank Mike Lindell. Mike will be here. Everybody will be here. We're live from CPAC tomorrow morning. See you back in the war room, 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. See you there.